Welcome to MMT Chats. This episode is brought to you by ISCAR with new ideas for machining intelligently. Hey MMT followers, I'm Christina Fuges, Editorial Director with MoldMaking Technology, and my guest on today's MMT Chat is Katherine Pistorius with Edgeroo Specialty Steels, who is one of MoldMaking Technology's 30 under 30 honorees. So hello, Katherine.
Hi, Christina.
So I have to ask, how does it feel to you to be nominated and then to be selected as one of MoldMaking Technology's 30 under 30 honorees?
It feels unreal. It's extremely exciting, and it feels like I finally have, since I'm new to the company, I'm new to the industry, just a couple of years out of college, that I feel like I'm being acknowledged and that my career is finally taking off. It's a very cool time.
I love it. It's exciting for us too to be able to recognize this next generation coming into the mold making marketplace. So it's exciting for us too. So why don't you start off by explaining what is your current position and your job function right now?
Yeah, so at Edgeroo, I'm currently a project engineer, and I just recently took on the sub role of Lean Six Sigma representative for my company as well.
Nice. All right, I think you have to give us, and I know you and I have spoken previously when Mike Guscott at Edgeroo told me about you, so we have connected. But why don't you give a little snapshot of how you got to where you are, because you have quite the background. So as quickly as you can, right? Like your journey, like your background, the education, any job history. I want the viewer to understand what led you not just to manufacturing and mold making, but then also what led you to Edgeroo.
Yeah, so it is kind of an interesting story. So briefly, I went to Penn State University and I got my bachelor's in industrial engineering. And I have some manufacturing engineering experience through internships from my sophomore and junior year. But when I took an off year after college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was still very undecided. I was a waitress, and my coworker there listened to me vent all the time how I wanted to travel. I wanted diversity. I wanted this company that helped me understand myself. And she plugged me in with a worker at Edgeroo who got me an interview, and the rest is history.
That's awesome. See, it's all who you know, or you never know where that opportunity can pop up, right? It's like,
I
gotta keep
know.
your eyes open. So when you think about your job or your career so far, what would you say is your number one challenge?
So for me personally, my biggest challenge is definitely pacing myself. I get very excited and I want to conquer the world and do all the projects, meet all the deadlines, but I think I didn't really realize like how pacing yourself actually makes your work more credible, hit your deadlines better. You know, it's all about just like mediating and slowly working through everything.
So I have to ask, what is your process for that? Because everybody has like a little trick of the trade to organize and pace themselves. Well, how do you do that?
Yeah, so for me, from just a baseline standpoint, if I can't get what I need to get done in the 8 hours that I have, then I can't do it. Because normally if I have 8 hours allocated for meetings and time that would normally take to get through my projects, it's always an extra bit of time after that. So if I just set the 8 hours, then I'm normally in a right amount of workload for myself per day.
Got it. That's a good rule. That's a good rule of thumb.
Simple.
Yeah, exactly. Keep it simple, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
what would you say is your, I guess your proudest moment or your top accomplishment so far?
Well, my top accomplishment in my company would definitely be when I was nominated to get my green belt for my Lean Six Sigma certification. There was a project competition among other young professionals in my company, and I won that with the big project that I got to pass my certification. So that was very exciting.
What did lean, I have to ask, what made you lean toward the whole lean manufacturing? Like what about that? Like, I don't know, kind of motivates you or gets you excited?
So Lean is just such a wonderful organizational process for problem solving. And I absolutely love puzzles. I love issues that come up in manufacturing. It's such a complex situation, and it's always so different depending on the facility, the department, that, I don't know, to have an actual certification that proved that I had some knowledge base in project management and optimization of workflow was just exactly the step that I needed to get into what I wanted to do.
It's like you fit right into that role.
Yeah.
I don't know that many people would want to go into that area, you know? I don't know, even if they even understand
it's stressful.
it. Yeah,
Exactly.
can imagine.
Yeah.
So when you think about manufacturing overall, or even more specifically, mold manufacturing, getting into it and learning about it, is there a specific, there's tons of misconceptions and myths out there for your generation and younger. Is there one in particular that you went in there thinking one thing and it just busted wide open and you're like, wow, that's not that way at all?
Yeah, so it's interesting because from my standpoint, it's all very lean based. So when I came into it after speaking with my professors about the industry, because I was curious, they were under the impression, since it's a make to order process a lot of the time, that lead times of a week plus out for a product to get out the door is acceptable. But when I got to Edgeroo, I realized that, like, in order to be in the competition, we needed 2 to 3 days tops. Like, you need to have that product out and moving and perfect spec, top quality.
Yeah.
And for me, it was a really exciting challenge because Edgeroo is very innovative in this department and very close to achieving that benchmark, and has most of the time. But there's still these like little quirks, things that come up. It's so unpredictable that trying to manufacture and optimize that process is difficult.
That's funny. That's continuous improvement, right? Because there's always going to be something that's going to get in the way, so you can find that bottleneck or find another way to do something better to improve efficiency. That's got to be fulfilling when you're part of those type of solutions, right?
It is, and there's hard numbers to back up your progress too, so you actually see your projects make a positive difference.
Yeah. So what is the most interesting technology that you've seen or used so far, and why?
Yeah, so from a user standpoint, this is something that we've just been getting into, is the XRF guns. And I'm not too familiar with how these are utilized, but from my understanding, when it uses radiation, you point it at a material and it can read the chemistry. So for us, from a quality standpoint, to have the information that readily available, if there's any sort of deformations in our product or a piece comes out the door deformed, it gives us so much more insight into why that could be. And it also lowers our lead time a lot because we don't have to send samples out to get examined.
I was going to say, I would have thought that was a part of the process that always had to be, I guess unless you're a plant that does it itself, that you're outsourcing that. Wow.
It's a lot more effective, that's for sure.
Yeah, that is very cool. So what is, in your day-to-day, what is the most interesting part of your job?
Honestly, the project groups that I work with, I'm in the middle of a bunch of different things at once, but I always have these little subdivision teams that I'm kind of watching over and working with, and just the diversity of the individuals, and just to see people come together and what beautiful ideas and creativity comes out of it is always astounding and always different.
When people come together for that common goal, and they're actually, it's a testament to the culture too. If they're open, if leadership, right, is open to having everybody contribute to a solution or a project, that is when everyone shines then. And it's fun to just have that brainstorming and figure things out. I can identify with that. So when it comes to specific projects, a customer project or a lean project, what is the most interesting project that you've worked on so far? And kind of describe a little bit about it. Paint that picture.
Yeah, so I have to dial back to my Greenbelt project again, because that was just one that I put the most amount of time into. There was most parties involved, and the best part about that project was it was a team not only from Edgeroo, but from one of our key customers as well. And we brought in both companies together to brainstorm and consolidate different ways to do these processes. And it was so beautiful to watch the dynamic not just be a buyer-seller dynamic, but to be like a communal team. Wow. And it really created like a connection between them that we didn't have before, which was wonderful.
That's awesome. And in this industry, it's such a community that is a great example of looking at your customer differently, right? Your partners in this together. Yeah. That's really cool. All right, nice. So I want to switch gears a little bit. So I know Mike, and I know I've had chat, Nick and Rob kind of led me to you. He's all about mentoring, whether he wants to call it that or not. Mentoring, and that's a big word or a popular word that's said. So I'm going to ask each of you, how do you define mentoring?
Well, for me, mentoring at Edgeroo has just been absolutely wonderful. It's not even just having like an advisor or a guide. It's having a friend within the company as well that you can be open and honest with about where you want the company to go, and they can be honest about where they want the company to go as well. And to work together, not only to learn from them, but to have a common goal, just creates such a unique bond in the workforce. And it's wonderful for us coming out of college into this industry.
Do you think, is there something unique in the way that Edgeroo kind of fosters a mentoring, whether it's informally or formally? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I think for us, we have different levels of mentors. I mean, you have on-site mentors, bosses, more or less, that are there every step of the way. Every day, if you have any of the slightest questions, they're there, you know. But then you also have your mentors like Mike, who is halfway across the world from me, but, you know, is just a phone call away and always willing to pull strings or get what I need if I feel like literally anything. If I just feel like I don't have enough help for a project, he'll find a way to help me. If I feel like maybe I want to take my career in a different direction, he'll talk with me about that. There's no bad questions. There's no bad comments. They're just there to help and for you to be happy. That's their main interest.
That's great. Well, because if you're happy, right, they're happy.
They're happy, exactly.
Everybody's happy. Customers are happy.
Yeah.
So, all right. So how long have you been with Edgeroo now?
3 years as of last week.
Wow. So 3 years. So in that time frame, what have you witnessed or learned that you believe has to change within manufacturing to continue to attract people like you, right? And not just young people, motivated young people. What do you think has to change?
So this is funny. Actually, what I think should change, my company's already doing, which I think is amazing. But in manufacturing, a lot of the internships that I've worked and what I've heard from my peers in college is that manufacturing is kind of a thing where you come into it and you kind of have a predetermined slot. You know, you're working in design, you're doing AutoCAD, you're working on the production team, you're doing whatever, you know, whatever engineering department you're in, you're kind of set for that career for life unless you switch companies. They have like a predetermined job slot, where Edgeroo, I think, has that unique and beautiful setup of bringing you in with no predetermined job within the company, but as an apprentice for 18 months just to explore, to find yourself. I mean, you go to college for all these years, but you don't have that firsthand experience to know, does this really fit in a day-to-day life for me?
That is so key that you said that, and someone of your age saying that, because I look back to, I think one of few that I know in my circle of life that's actually using the degree that I attained, right? So that it's nice to see that you come out, and it's sad too. You get all this education and you're learning a lot, whether you go away or you stay home, but that real world application is missing a lot at the university level. You need that real world. How does it really apply to what I want to do for the rest of my life? So it's a
daunting comment too.
Yeah, exactly. It really is. So speaking of that, where do you see yourself in, say, 5 years?
So I ideally would really like to be a director for the regional lean department through our parent company, but also would be assisting Edgeroo with that. But I just want to climb up the Lean Six Sigma ladder because I'm just so passionate about it. It's amazing.
That is so awesome that you're so, I wonder how usual that is. You're so targeted, like you found it. You almost fell in love with that aspect of manufacturing. You're going for it.
I feel very lucky in that way.
Yeah. Do you know if that will require you to travel more, to have to move, or?
Yeah, so I mean, that's so down the line, but I know that traveling in general, now that I've taken on this new role of the lean representative for Edgeroo Specialty Steels, I have to travel across America quite a bit.
Okay.
So,
and how has that been as of the past year? How's your travel?
Not traveling has been tough on me psychologically, but I'm very excited to get back into it.
Me too. It's about time, right?
Seriously.
You know. All right. So how about, to kind of wrap it up, if I asked you to actually help sell mold making, and if that's too specific, we'll say manufacturing, but of course I want to talk mold making, to sell that as a career, not just a job, as a career to kids in high school, how would you do that? What would you say?
Back in high school, I have to tap into my high school self. I mean, honestly, there's two big things, and I think it really comes from the generational difference, right? That millennials, Gen Zs, we're all looking for flexibility, the freedom to understand ourselves, the freedom to grow into who we are. And the wonderful thing about mold making and manufacturing is that they are longevity. They have the longevity of being growing businesses with so much opportunity, and there's job security. Not only that, but you also have the flexibility. Do you want to design product? Do you want to sell? Do you want to produce? Whatever department you want, mold make specific, manufacturing specific, you can get into that. And there's so much potential for anybody who has an interest in having their hands dirty and getting into something that has like real world impact. That's the beautiful thing, is you get to watch your product from design to production actually make an impact on the world.
Yeah, definitely. I love that you can actually see, right? You literally can see what you've been part of creating. I think that's great.
Exactly.
Well, that's it. We've got to wrap that up. I want to wish you the best of luck. Keep in touch, because I would just love to continue hearing about your journey, since you know, you're still so new to it. And I think there's a lot of potential for you in this industry. And I'm sure, hopefully I'll see you at upcoming trade events. You never know.
I would love to. And thanks for having me.
No problem. So congrats again. And thank you for your time. And to everybody watching out there, remember, for everything mold making, visit MoldMakingTechnology.com. Stay safe and healthy. And more importantly, stay informed and stay inspired.